In many places, Half-Life 2 reacts in certain ways to the player's current health, armor, and ammo counts. In Episode 1, you drop into this room. You're supposed to prove that you found the pistol or shotgun or both by shooting off this lock before you can leave. If you waste all of your ammo though, the door will open anyway. This shed will have an extra health kit when you're below 50 health. This health kit will not spawn again until either the battery or the normal health kit are picked up, and it cannot spawn again once the lull before the final wave begins. The Episode 2 Vortigaunt will not charge you up during combat unless you have no suit power and are at 15 health or lower. When the hunter is ambushing you at the start of Episode 2, a small bit of damage is applied to you, but only if you have enough health to survive it. The trigger does 20 damage, and you need to have at least 22 health for the trigger to activate. However, as with most sources of damage, the damage is affected by difficulty, and the threshold does not account for this. This means between 11 and 21 health, the trigger is not necessary to disable on easy and on medium at 21 health. Also, between 22 and 30 health, this will in fact kill you on hard. There are too many to list individually, but there are many places in Half-Life 2 and Portal 1 and 2 where the game makes a dangerous save. A save is technically made at a given point, but only if the player is above some certain health value. The save is not actually committed to until a given number of seconds later, where the player must again be above some other certain health value. Then the point in time from before becomes the autosave. This makes it almost impossible to be stuck in a doomed save. The Strider battle in Episode 2 has its own special system to start monitoring the player's health when it goes below 50 and make a save when it goes back to 90 or higher. It will not make saves if Striders are too close to the base at the same point where the alarm starts. There is an entity called Item Dynamic Resupply which replaces itself with another item based on what the player needs. To determine what the player needs, the entity has number settings ranging from 0 to 1 for health, armor, and every kind of ammo, which set targets for how much of that thing the player should have. For instance, if the health setting is 0.3, the entity will try to keep the player above 30% health. If the player needs both ammo and either health or armor, one pickup from both categories will be spawned. If there are multiple things needed within a category, it picks whichever item the player is most in need of by how many cents they are below the target value. The entity has several quirks. It will not spawn a pickup if the player does not have the thing that pickup is useful for, except for grenades. You can always get grenades. For weapons that have reserve ammo, it does not read how much ammo is in the active clip, only reserve ammo. If there are other pickups nearby, it will consider the player to have them already when calculating what the player needs. For items to be nearby, they must be within the potentially visible set of the entity and within 1024 units of it. The potentially visible set is a technical term that refers to what parts of the map are potentially visible from a certain place. What counts as potentially visible is its own subject, but I will say that you can see what's in the PVS of your camera with this command. For each type of pickup, the entity can only detect one type of nearby item. For health, only health kits are searched for, not health vials or health chargers. For suit power, only batteries are searched for, not suit chargers or stun sticks. All ammo types search for their standard ammo entity, which means they don't search for their weapon entities, except grenades, which we'll get to. The 357, AR2, pistol, and SMG have large variants of their ammo boxes which appear identical but simply give more ammo. None of these are searched for. No ammo type searches for infinite ammo crates. When you pick up your first of a weapon entity, the entity continues to exist and follows you. That same entity is the one that remains visible on your player model. This applies to NPCs as well. When a weapon runs out of ammo, the entity still remains attached to you invisibly and will appear again when you get more ammo for it. All of this applies to all weapons, and it makes real-world sense until you get to grenades. Grenades do not have an ammo entity. Every grenade you pick up is just a grenade weapon entity, and when Item Dynamic Resupply is searching for nearby grenades, it can only search for that same class name. If you've ever picked up a grenade, the weapon entity will count as a nearby grenade, and you'll receive grenades as if you had whatever amount you really do have plus 1. This is also why if you throw all of your grenades before entering the confiscation field, a 6th grenade suddenly appears. Antlion grubs will drop a different sized pellet based on the player's health. If there is a master resupply entity, it uses its health setting as its target health, otherwise it assumes a target value of 100%. Item dynamic resupplies have a setting to turn them into a master entity, which means non-master resupplies, and all that spawn from item crates will use the master entity settings so that the level designers don't have to copy a bunch of settings to many different entities. There are 3 sizes of grub nuggets, with larger ones giving more health. The math for picking which size of nugget to spawn is a bit overly complex. All you really need to know is when you're on lower health, you're more likely to get larger nuggets, but smaller ones still have a small chance to appear, and vice versa. Still, this video is lacking some meat on its bones, so I will explain the math. First, if the player's health is greater than or equal to the target health, the grub will always drop the smallest size. Now let's let A equal a random number between 0 and 1, and let B equal 1 minus the player's health percentage over the target health percentage, which is the percentage we would decrease the target health by to reach the current health. It sounds more intuitive to instead find the target health over the current health minus 1, which is the percent you would increase the current health by to reach the target, but doing it this way lets us keep B between 0 and 1, which is preferable. Now we raise A to the power of the natural log of B times negative 1.4427, which is 1 over the natural log of 0.5. The number we end up with is A, but sort of biased towards one direction based on B in a way that means if B is 0.5, there's no effect. I don't have a math background, so maybe this is actually a very common way to bias a value, but I'll just have to wait for the comments to tell me, I think. On this graph here, the y-axis shows what happens as A changes, and the time axis shows what happens as B changes. So, if that new value is less than 0.25, the grub drops a small nugget. If it's greater than or equal to that, but less than 0.625, it drops a medium-sized nugget, and anything else will drop a large nugget.